And by the time it's done, I'm done. So I'm not mad that I bought it and spent the money because we'll do it next year. Let me tell you, it's been quite the ride. And just curious, like, how's this girl gonna get this all to work out? Well, now you know. So again, the topics it covers, I think, are just things we just don't even really think about to go over and talk about with our kids. We're not really gonna know what I'm talking about. So I will. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Courtney and I am a mama to 2 boys, and we are currently homeschooling my 4.5-year-old. He's almost 5, and I wanted to give you guys a kind of a midterm update, but we're not quite halfway. But I figured we have gone through a lot of ups and downs this pre-kinder year for my son, and I kind of feel like we're now into a rhythm. We tried a lot of different parts of the curriculum, so I kind of know what we like, what we didn't like, what's working, what's not working. So I felt like this is kind of a good midpoint update for you guys. And so most of our curriculum goes for 36 weeks. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my big planner with my curriculum, so that's just what I'm looking at. So like I said, we are at week 13 out of 36 weeks. Because we live in a area that has a very long winter in the US, and we also have a very mild summer. We want to enjoy as much summer as we can, so we tend to push our fall term for homeschool back to like the middle of September, almost the end of September. So we definitely start a little bit later. So I wanted to go ahead and give you an update. If you have not watched my pre-kinder curriculum, you're not really gonna know what I'm talking about. So I will go ahead and link that up here. Go ahead and click on that, watch what curriculum we did, and now I'm gonna jump in and kind of tell you what worked, what didn't work, what we changed, what we added, what we took away, because let me tell you, it's been quite the ride. And that is what homeschooling is, though. You know, you are going to feel defeated at times because things are just not what you thought they were gonna be, or maybe you enjoy it but your kid doesn't. Maybe it works or it doesn't work, and you have to figure out what are you gonna do about it. And we definitely went through that, and like I said, we're only at week 13, and I kind of finally feel like I have got a rhythm down and figured out what we like and what we don't like. So it's been quite the struggle, and my son is only 4.5, but it just shows that even seasoned homeschool mamas out there, I'm sure, still deal with this. So first off, let me remind you that we are doing Sonlight as the bulk of my son's pre-kinder curriculum. So we're doing Sonlight P. Now, they have since changed it, and I bought this back in, actually I don't know when I bought it, if it was in the summer or the spring, but they've already changed it. So again, what I'm talking about might be different already if you go on their website to see what's in their pre-kinder package. And I'm going to upload a video soon about how I saved money with Sonlight, and that's how I realized they've already changed stuff. So anyway, so if I'm saying a few things and you're like, that's not in the pre-kinder package, then you'll know they changed it already. So not a bad thing. Actually, most of the changes they made, I think, were good. So what our typical homeschool week looks like right now is we do 4 days of schooling and then 1 day off. And then of course we have Saturday and Sunday off. So Monday and Wednesday tend to be our like heavy days where I know we're typically not going anywhere, or if we do have appointments or certain therapists come to my house, I know that I have time to get some good homeschooling done. So that's when we're going to do the bulk of our Sonlight curriculum, as well as our All About Reading pre-reading. So I'll talk about that in a second. And the bulk of our math and our like faith studies. Now, Tuesdays tend to be a little bit of our lighter days. We only have one appointment that day for one of my sons, and so when we come back, sometimes it takes a little bit of, finagling to get them into their chairs at the table just to get a little bit of something done. It tends to be like our cutting or gluing, kind of the hands-on stuff, particularly for math that we do with my son, any songs that we're doing, calendar work, kind of those types of more hands-on things rather than let's talk about the new letter today, let's do some handwriting. And then Thursdays are our day off because that is our day that we always have, both of my sons have an appointment that day. day with for their speech therapy, and it's a long day. And then we usually have a therapist coming to our house for OT for my other son. So it's a full day of appointments, and by the time it's done, I'm done. So we just don't do school that day. We do reading though. Again, if you know about Sonlight, it is a literature-based curriculum, so there is a lot of reading. And then I tend to add a lot of books just because I love books and my kids love learning through books. So Thursday tends to be a day we get a lot of the reading done. So even though it is a day off, it's when we get a lot of the reading done. And we'll do that at right before rest time. So my youngest son still naps, but my older one, he does about an hour of quiet time. And so we will read right before that. And it just has worked out beautifully. Friday is our day where we tend to have a standing play date with my friend. And both of our boys are about the same age. So it's really good for homeschool kids to have that interaction, and we love it. They've been friends. I mean, me and her were pregnant with our second at the same time, so it's really fun. So we like to have that standing play date, and we just switch between our houses. So that day, I usually can get a little bit of homeschooling done. So kind of like Tuesdays, it's a little bit lighter, and it also tends to be heavier on the reading. So when we get home, or my friend and her kids leave, then right before rest time, we'll do a good chunk of reading. But we are able to get some school done that day compared to Thursdays, where we're out the door for appointments right away. There's no time to do schooling. And then, like I said, I'm usually exhausted by the time the appointments are done. So Monday, Wednesday are our hard, structured homeschool days. Again, I say that lightly because my son is 4.5 years old. Tuesdays and Fridays are a little bit of our lighter days. And then Thursdays is pretty much our day off, but we will do some of our reading. So I hope that kind of explains it. It has taken me a while to get that rhythm down and what works. So, and then of course we have Saturdays and Sundays off. That's when my husband's home. So for now, it just seems, you know, when he's off, the boys want to be with him, I want to be with him. It's also nice to have a little bit of break from school. So we are doing the Sonlight as the bulk of our curriculum. Like I said, Sonlight P, HBL, we are doing. And then when I ordered the Sonlight, and this is one of the big differences, and I will get into it in that other video. If I've already done it, I'll post it, or I'll link it below, link it right here, whatever. But that was different when I bought it then, where you could do, the two options were, let me think how they phrased it. It was like the package that was with readers and then the package that was without readers. And I was the one who said, I'm gonna go ahead and get it with readers. My son at that point really did know his alphabet. You know, most of the sounds, I mean, it wasn't perfect, right? He clearly needed like more, which is why we'll get into this, why I got this. But I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get it. Let's just see how it is, okay? So I got the Sonlight P, so that is their pre-kinder. I believe their preschool is like Sonlight T. So I got Sonlight P for HBL, which is history, Bible, language, literature. And then I got the language arts added, which was the option that was with readers, okay? If you pull it up on the computer, it's a lot easier. Sonlight, as a box curriculum, it's amazing. But at the same time, like, all the different options, it can get a little out of control, but I love them, I love it. So anyways, so I got the language arts, and it's like K, I believe is what it was. And so we got to about 7 weeks of that, honestly, if that. And I was like, it's just way too advanced. You know, we were doing, if you look, I can actually pull this up real quick. This is the Level P instructor guide. Let's see if it'll focus. And so you can see, like, it has your subjects that you're gonna do, and it's right here, the pre-reading and the writing. If it'll focus, sorry, is pretty much just that area is what you're doing for your language arts. If you did not choose to do the language arts, like I said, I believe it is like K. If I keep saying that wrong, I'll put it up here, but it added, I mean, it was a language arts program, right? And so it was just too much. It was, honestly, it was a lot of fun. There was like, go to the library, go have a story time, or ask your child to tell you a story about what would it be like if you're, you know, like 5 inches tall. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and we did enjoy it. And I typed some of his stories and stuff. It just was, it got to the point where like the writing, it wasn't just, hey, let's trace A, or like circle the pictures that make a ah sound for A. It got to the point where he was like writing I am, or like actually writing out words. And I was just like, it's too much, right? I would say by the time he was starting to put the letters together, we had gotten to that point where like my son understood all of his letters, uppercase, lowercase, and all the sounds really well. I mean, we're 13 weeks and he knows it. Like, he's done. He's good. So about 7 weeks, he understood. Like, if I put these two letters together, like C-A-T, like, he understood. If I sounded out at with all the sounds that each letter makes, and then his face, right? He'd go, cat. And so it was like seeing your child do that on their own is amazing. But we just weren't to that level. And obviously it was only gonna progress. And it honestly was just too much of a workload, not only for me, but for him. So we have gone and gotten rid of that. And if you go to their website, they now have that language art package as not even an option for the pre-kinder level. And I was like, oh wow, because I was trying to do like all the prices for that video I'm gonna post. But I was like, you know what? They made the right choice. They really did. I'm not mad that I bought it and spent the money, because we'll do it next year. And I know what to expect now. So it's not that big of a deal, but we are now very focused on him having pretty much a letter a week and practicing writing it, practicing the sound, and it's fine. I will say that I'm in a struggle right now with that, because I think he is more advanced than that. He's just not ready for that language arts program. So if you remember my video, I did buy All About Reading pre-reading, and we started this in his summer term. And I was like, I think we're gonna blow through this. Honestly, we have taken it very slowly. We are going through this at the speed and at the letter with this curriculum. So we went through all the uppercase, we are almost done with the lowercase, and we're just taking our time matching it with the letter of the week that Sonlight is doing, and it's working phenomenal. Sonlight does have a few days scheduled, like this week and last week were what they call review. And so they just want you to review certain letters, and you're gonna practice tracing them. And so for us, what we've been doing during the review is, if you know anything about All About Reading pre-reading, is they have 3 sections. They have your uppercase, your lowercase, and then the last one is called like the sounds or whatever, like, yeah, the sound of G, right? And so we have been doing that. So like this week, we were to review S and I. So on Monday, we did the All About Reading section on the sound of S and the sound of I. So again, when you're doing All About Reading pre-reading, you're gonna focus on the uppercase and go through the whole alphabet. Then the next section is the lowercase and all through of those. And you're reading certain books that go with them, you're doing certain hands-on projects with them, and it does focus on the sounds it makes, but it's more focused on letter recognition. And that's what that third part is really gonna be focused on the actual letter and what it says. You know, B is for B. And so like one of the activities we had to do was where you cut out 3 pictures out of 4, your child has to glue what images make that B sound. And so like in this one, there's a boat, a bus, a violin, and a bee. And so your child has to name those and go, which one is making that B sound? And so it's a lot of fun. And then of course there's some activities on the other side. And so that's what we've been doing on the weeks that are reviews. They're not very often, but Sonlight has scheduled them. And so that is our way of doing this. And I have to sneeze. Okay, and so that's been our way of doing this. And like I said, we typically will only do the All About Reading pre-reading on Monday, and it works. So on the review weeks, we tend to do, depending on how many letters I'm reviewing in one week, sometimes it's only 2, and sometimes it's been like 3 or 4, and we'll just do this pretty much all of the days we're doing school. So we're enjoying All About Reading pre-reading. I highly recommend it. We will continue on and do All About Reading level 1. I am not sure when we will incorporate that. We're gonna continue following Sonlight's introduction of the letters, and we'll just see. we'll just see where we're at. I really don't think I will intermingle that right away. I think he is getting really good at just laying that very strong foundation of understanding the letters and the sounds that they make and all the activities that are kind of cementing that in for him. So I will do another update either, in another few weeks or towards the end of the terms, and I will let you know what we ended up doing. I could kind of see doing All About Reading Level 1 in like the summer. Or the fall for his kindergarten year for sure. So we'll just kind of see. I need to look through All About Reading Level 1 and just kind of see the pace of it and how quickly it's going to go. Okay, so let's continue on. Like I said, I keep looking down. So let's go ahead real quick and talk about math. So, because I feel like, I feel like kind of like the language arts as well as your math is kind of those big heavy ones. So for math has been the one that we have gone like this, and it has been quite the trip. So we started doing the Sonlight math, and it is called pre-math. Their main focus on here, I will pull this out once again, is, I want to point to it real quick, it'll focus, is right here. So it's pre-math. So you're always focusing on these geometric shapes, at least as of now, and then the numbers. And so honestly, I felt like it was just moving really slow. My son knows his numbers. He understands that the numerical number is also going to have a quantity. So, he understood that. I think that Sonlight was moving a little bit too slow for us. So I was doing if you remember in my curriculum, we were doing Kate Snow's, I believe it was the level K. So it was for kindergarten. And I remember saying like, oh, it's probably gonna be too advanced. We'll just see how we go. So I loved it. It was a little bit more prep, so to speak, of gathering items, which you typically have around your home, is totally fine. And my son, I think he enjoyed kind of the hands-on component and the teaching of the lesson. He did enjoy the little workbook pages. And then we stopped. It started to get to the point of like addition and just a little bit more advanced. And I could tell that he was losing interest in the curriculum, and he was losing his interest in the topics we were covering. And so what I ended up doing was I said, that's fine. And I put it to the side. And I said, we'll come back to it when we're ready. And if it's not till next fall for his kindergarten year, that's totally fine. Nothing against her curriculum. I went and got a curriculum that I knew was probably going to be too advanced. I guess I didn't really go in thinking that he was going to be kind of like opposed to it. Not that he like complained about it. I wasn't getting a lot of interest from him with it. And I figured, okay, math's just not his thing, right? So then I went and I printed The Good and the Beautiful, their level K math. And I was like, I'm going to run into the same issue, right? Now, the reason I chose that was because it was free, which is amazing. Thank you for making that free. And it's a great way to just test it out. And it was a game changer. He loved it, okay? He loved the images. He loved the way they taught. I loved that it was open and go. Now, because I didn't buy it from them and I didn't buy their math kit, I did have to kind of ad-lib a few things. But he loved it. I loved it. I liked how they taught it a little bit more, because with Kate Snow's, while it was super simple, you did have to do a little bit of prep and you did have to kind of pre-read through it, whereas The Good and the Beautiful, it was open and go. Now, with The Good and the Beautiful, it also started to get in advanced. I can't really remember what, I know it got into addition, but I think there was something else it got into, and I was just like, oh my goodness, no, it was like pulling teeth, where, yeah. Oh, it was talking about like first, second, and third, and we're not there, and that's okay. I think that's a little bit advanced for pre-kinder. And so we buttoned it up, and I said, we'll come back to it. So what I ended up doing was going back to Sonlight. And by the time we went back to Sonlight, and I can't remember what week it was, but they were definitely focused on like the teen numbers. And that's, I think, where he is at. He's got 1 through 10. He understands 0. He understands they have quantities that go to the numerical value. And so we were focusing on 11 to 20. And just really trying to understand that. And so with Sonlight, they do a lot of the 10, I actually have it right here. They do a lot of the beads, so it's like Montessori. And these I actually bought through Amazon. These are not the ones you get in their package. And then also the 10 frames. The Montessori 10 frames, I believe is what they're called. And this is, again, not the ones that they have. Theirs, I believe, is like cardboard. And so I bought a wood one. And then, of course, I have the numbers. And so we have just been using the beads and the 10 frame thing to count it out, and he has been loving it, just really mastering counting, but also, you know, taking, you know, the 10 and then putting the 11, 12, 13 with these in there, and then putting the beads next to it, and even like just doing 0 through 10 with even just these without the 10 frame, and him counting 1 bead and then 2 bead, and then seeing him realize like, oh, instead of doing like 7 of the individual, you know, red beads, he started realizing he could use some of these, which was a really cool concept for him to kind of grasp, that he could use a bead that already had 4 beads on it. And so that really helped when we got to the 10, where he understands it actually is kind of like an orange when you get it out of the box, and he understands the orange beads, the long ones, are 10. And so when we got to the teen numbers, he realized, oh, like there's 10 beads already on here and I don't have to count it every single time. And so then it was really easy for him to go, okay, this is 10, and then I can add a red one, and that's just 1 red one, and that's 11. And so this has been so refreshing, and I'm glad we kind of dialed it back. This also shows me, and I know it's early on, but it shows me that he's more of a mastery type instead of more of the spiral. So a lot of your math curriculums are going to be either spiral or mastery. Mastery where you master that and then we move on. Spiral where it's going to come back. The Good and the Beautiful, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking it is more spiral, but it does have kind of mastery in it. So it's kind of a combination. I would say Kate Snow's is kind of a mastery, or not mastery, I'm sorry, it's kind of a combination as well. And so those were 2 reasons why I really enjoyed those, because it's like at such a young age, it's hard to know. But now that we've kind of gotten our feet wet with 2 years plus 2 summers of kind of light schooling, I'm like, yeah, I think he's a mastery kid. I know Matthew C, I'm pretty sure, is a really good like mastery program. So again, it's just so important that you might start planning your homeschool and be like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do the Good and the Beautiful, we're gonna do this, whatever, right? And then you start to realize your child and how they learn best, and you might just completely change. So I'm definitely gonna keep my eyes open for the next, because I'm pretty sure when I looked at Sonlight's level K for next year, they are already outsourcing the math, right? And I think they're doing Math UC. And so I'm going to look into Math UC a little bit more. Like I said, nothing against Kate Snow. I am, you know, going to look into Math UC, but we might also go back to Kate Snow's for sure. And then, like I said, he did really enjoy the Good and the Beautiful, and I enjoyed how open and go it was. So I digress. So that's kind of where we have gone, is we have gone back to just the Sonlight. I know that it's, you know, they have now introduced these, I keep calling it a 10 frame, it's a teen board. So I know that, you know, we're only at week 13. I'm gonna see how slow this is gonna progress with Sonlight. For now, my plan is just to stick with them. The other thing we have been doing is, I believe I mentioned it in my curriculum video, but for his preschool term last year, we did the Moffat Girls Math in addition to Kate Snow's preschool math at home. And the Moffat Girl curriculum is where you buy it from, I believe, TPT, or you can buy it from our website, I think. Anyways, I'll link it below, and you pay a price and then you get the rights to it where you get to print it. And a lot of it is because you use it in schools, or teachers can use it, and hence the teacher pay teacher. And so it's very beneficial for teachers because you can print as much as you need. And so for me, as a homeschooling mama to 2 boys, right, one at a time, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many worksheets, there's so many activities, so many options. But what's great is I printed a lot of it out last year, and we used a lot of like her teaching methods. We used a lot of the hands-on, but we didn't do a lot of the worksheets. And his fine motor has progressed so much now, where he's so good at cutting. Whereas last preschool term, it was like, I don't want to do cutting with you. You know, if you know, you know. And so now it's like, no, let's do the cutting, you know, let's do the gluing. And he is enjoying that. He is enjoying the worksheets. He's enjoying some of the activities that in the Moffat Girl curriculum she used to teach the concepts. And so though I'm not using her like teacher guide, I am using some of her worksheets and some of her teaching tools, so to speak, to enforce the numbers. And so we are up to 10 right now. So these are the ones we did this week. And so like I introduced 9. So like this was one of her teaching tools. I laminated it. You don't have to. And he takes his car and he just goes, green means go, stop, lift up, and then he'll go down. And so it's just kind of integrating. It's another way for him to learn how to write a 9 and also what it looks like, but he doesn't have to just sit there and write, you know, write a 9, write a 9, write a 9. So this has just been another fun way, and my son loves cars. So that's been great. And then my son loves these where it's find the 9, and I didn't laminate this one, but I'll give him like little erasers or little like bingo dot things, and he'll cover up all the 9s. And what's great about this is they're in all different fonts. And so he definitely struggled with the 9s today just because he was getting the 9s and the 6s confused. And I was like, oh, buddy, remember? So this was really good, though, for him to see so many 9s in different fonts as well as all the 6s in different fonts close. So we did that. And then typically on our Tuesdays, like I said, we do a lot of our cutting. So he did this one. He loves these. It's all... let me make sure I read it right. All about the number 9. And so if it adds up to 9, you put it over here. If it doesn't, you glue it in the sad face. And so he gets to cut it out and then he gets to count. And my son has just really been enjoying counting. And I think because there's so many different items to count, plus he cut them out. I don't know. This was just something we didn't do for his preschool year. This would have been way too much, but for now it's perfect. And it's just working on him counting. It's working on him seeing the quantity represented in different ways. So we did that, and then I added in a couple of these worksheets just kind of for fun, really just because he's been enjoying cutting so much. And so like this one was just he working on his number recognition, again, just really cementing that in, getting that mastery foundation. And so like he cut these out, and I would just say, okay, pick out a number. What number is it? Oh, it's a 2. And then I would say, okay, go find the correct beehive that has 2 bees, and then he would glue it there. And so he's just doing a great job, and I'm so happy. Again, not a lot of kids are worksheet based, and I would never recommend doing like a ton of worksheets, but if your kid likes it, do it. And for right now in what we're doing, this is what works. And like I said, the Moffat Girl curriculum, she has a whole bunch of activities in this for I can't even think, like like there was a pepperoni pizza one, and it had like onions and olives, and so like there would be little recipes, and it would say like put 3 olives, right? And so like I cut all that out, and so he's done that and he's really enjoyed it. There was, I believe, a cookie one as well, where I'm trying to think if he had to put like chocolate chips on it or something. She has so many, okay? It's been phenomenal. Lots of really fun hands-on. And like I said, it's kind of like a game to him, but it's not like I'm going out and buying a board game. Highly recommend. So, and then I started to introduce 10 yesterday, and so this was just a little bit extra. So obviously he glued that one upside down in that one, but this one is like, oh, put all your 10s in this one, and if it's not a 10, it goes down here. So again, just kind of working on that number recognition has been great. And so like I said, combining the Sonlight, just really focusing on the beads and the teen frames, counting each bead and whatever, just really taking our time. But then just adding some of the Moffat Girl curriculum has been wonderful. Now, the preschool curriculum that I had from the Moffat Girls for math, I know she's gonna go into like some other things like colors. Well, he already knows his colors. I think she goes into like comparing numbers, like more or less. So even though he's not quite to addition, he knows more or less very well. I'm trying to think what else. I know she did one on size. Again, he's beyond that, like tall or which one's shorter. Like he's beyond that. Shapes, again, you know, I could probably work on his shapes a little bit more and some of the activities that like sort them, because sometimes he does get his shapes kind of mixed up. So I might pull that out and do that in addition to the Sonlight as well. So that's kind of my plan. But her curriculum does stop at 10. And I think it's because it went through all these other things like shapes, colors, comparing, you know, more or less, that kind of stuff. So I don't want to go and buy her kindergarten curriculum, as, you know, I've already done the Kate Snow and now I've done the Good and the Beautiful, and obviously they excelled. But with the Moffat Girl curriculum, I did see where I could just buy like 11 through 20 and not buy her whole package, which again is really nice. I don't know if you can do that with her preschool one, where like you could just buy the colors if you wanted to focus on that. I don't know. Okay, so if you can, I will link what I can below, whether it's the entire preschool curriculum, which would be this, or if like you could just get 1 through 10 or just the measurement. I kind of feel like you could, and I feel like she bundled it into like a full curriculum because it's a better deal. So look in the links below. I'll link what I can. But like I said, I'm thinking of buying the 11 through 20, her curriculum on that. And I was thinking it was super affordable, like between $15 and $25. And then I'll just print what I need. And that way we can reinforce, since with our Sonlight curriculum, we are now trying to hone in on the teens. And I believe they go up to 20. So if I can combine the Sonlight curriculum for their math with Moffat Girls, me buying her curriculum for 11 to 20, I think that's my plan. So again, I will update later. So that is the math. Now we're just gonna kind of speed through the rest. I feel like that was pretty quick and easy. The handwriting we have been doing is the Good and the Beautiful. And it is, if you remember what I said, we were doing the pre-writing, doodles and pre-writing for littles. This is the part 2. And he loves it. And I will tell you what, in 13 weeks, he has rushed through this, where we don't even do this every week, because once he does it, he will do like he doesn't want to stop. He'll do like 12 or 13 pages. So as you can see, I'm pretty sure this is all I have left. Like he has gone through quite a bit. So he's done really good though. Like I said, in 13 weeks, I have noticed his tracing on his letters has been, he's not rushed. He takes it very easy. Also his pencil grip, is it called like a pencil grip? He has done phenomenal. And like sometimes I'll catch him holding it wrong, holding it like this or something, and I'll say, is that how we hold our pencil correctly? And he'll go, oh, you're right, Mama. And he'll correct to the correct way. And so these have just been fun. He enjoys it. I think it's fun for any kid. I think pretty soon it's gonna get more into the letters and stuff. But you know, just like it's fun, you know? And it's just really good for him to focus on just keeping it on the line, taking his time. So we have enjoyed that. I do plan to continue that. And then if we make it through that, I may progress and buy something else for his handwriting. Otherwise, the Sonlight, every time, every week, we do have a letter, and then it would be handwriting, practicing that letter. Now, they do recommend, I believe it was Handwriting Without Tears, and we actually already did that book. And I will say even that I didn't think was enough. So with that said, because he's flying through this, I may go ahead and grab their next handwriting, which I think it goes straight into just kindergarten. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the other one I really wanted to do was A Reason For, and that is handwriting. But I was thinking the reason I didn't buy it was because it was advanced, and like really advanced. So again, that'll be something I'll update you on. So as for Bible, we have been enjoying the Sonlight 101 favorite stories from the Bible. I'll put the picture here because I don't have the book with me. We're actually ahead in that because you do 3 stories a week, and then one of the days out of the 4 you're introducing the memory verse. And we just, I just kind of got in the habit of also reading a story that week. And so we're actually ahead, which is, to me, it's totally fine. We do the questions that are assigned to each reading. We practice our memory verse. So again, it's for me, it's not a bad thing to be ahead in that area. We also are doing our Bible for the, that we're currently reading. I'll put a picture here as well because I didn't bring that one down either. And we're loving it. It is so much fun. We're not doing the songs with it because, as you remember, I could not find the CD, and it's totally fine. We love the illustrations. I love the stories. It has stories in this Bible that other storybook Bibles do not have. And so we're going through this. I know we'll be done with this probably, I'm just guessing, by February. And so the one that we plan on reading after that is this one. And I'm really excited for that one. I think it'll be very good for my 2-year-old because he does listen, but that one I think is definitely more geared to either children who can't sit for a while or children who kind of need more interactive stories, but especially I think it's good for younger ages. And so I'm excited to get him kind of pulled into those storybooks. So we're constantly having a storybook Bible that we are reading. My son is getting close to the point where I want to start getting him his own Bible and start reading from that. So I'll keep you updated on that. And let me think, we're doing our catechism. It's going well. We are taking our time with it. Sometimes we'll do 1 a week. Other times we'll do like 3 a week. You know, it just kind of depends. My son is enjoying it. Right now, we are not going back through them and reviewing them. We're just progressing. We're still in the first of 3 stacks. If you remember, I got a pack of 3. So that's been good. For our morning time, it literally is called morning time, and it is I'm trying to think what it's called so I don't mess it up. I can't think of what it's called. Brighter Day Press, I think, is who makes it. And so I bought the version, I think it's like volume 1, and I downloaded it myself. And I will say we have loved it. We have really loved it. And I think it is, it's definitely a lot for a 4.5-year-old. And I mean that in the best way possible because this is something we are going to get to grow into and I'm going to use again. And what's great is I think she only has like 5 or 6 volumes. Don't quote me on that. But, you know, this is one where we're not doing all of this. And so next year we can do it again because we didn't do everything. And so maybe in 2 or 3 years, I can buy her second volume if we're still enjoying it. So that's what's been really great. So she has Bible reading or devotional. Now, I forget what Bible she's using, but we aren't doing that one. And the reason is because we were currently doing a Bible that carried over from our summer term, and I wanted to finish that one. And then I knew I wanted to do the Word and Song Bible that we're doing right now. And so I know we're going to read a story every single day. So she has you reading for... she has the pages on here, right? 3 days out of the 5, and then you're doing the ology on Thursday, and then on Friday she has a psalm that you're reading. So for us, we do 4 days out of the week. Sometimes our 5th day, which would be that Thursday that I told you is usually our day off, we're doing Bible reading, whether it is the 101 favorite stories from the Bible that Sonlight is having us do, combined with our storybook Bible, the Word and Song. So we're following it, but not really. Now, the ology we read last time for his preschool, and it is theologically, it's sound. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. But we didn't want to go back through that this time. Not that we won't. We will, absolutely. I'll probably wait a little bit more. But we ended up, instead of theology, I ended up getting an actual curriculum, and the curriculum that we're doing is The More Than Words by Rebecca Spooner. And I'll talk about that in just a minute, but that is what we were doing instead of theology, okay? So then usually on Mondays, I will read the prayer. I think her husband is a pastor, if that's correct. And so we'll read through his prayer. I love reading other people's prayers. I think it opens us up to other terminology we can use in our prayers, if that makes sense. Sometimes it gives us more ideas of what we can pray on. I don't think that I think most Christians would be honest and say sometimes, you get in a praying rut and sometimes you pray for the same things. And so I love reading other people's prayers. And I like doing this especially with kids because it just exposes them to how, even though I'm the one reading the prayer, how somebody else prays to God. And it just opens up their vocabulary to other things. And I will tell you, his prayers are like a pastor praying, and it has given them more understanding of a vocabulary and terminology that other people use when they pray. So we are not doing their memory verse because we are doing the memory verse in our Sonlight, and that's fine. We do listen to the hymn usually once a week, if not twice a week. It just kind of depends. The New City Catechism we're not doing because we're doing the catechism that I bought. And then the arts has been hit or miss. So my son, and actually both my sons, actually really did enjoy when I would play like the composer's music. Like I was kind of blown away. They would sit there and I would usually play one where, it's the orchestra playing it, and they were actually very into it. But then we kind of stopped with like the picture study, as well as there was usually a reading about the composer. And I'm just being honest, we just kind of, that was something that it went, right? It went away. And I'm not upset about that. I think you have to don't let the curriculum control you. And that was just one of the areas we cut. Now, the art study, I typically will show my kids the art and we'll look at it and we'll talk about it. And it works. But it's not something where we sit and do exactly how she said to do the art study. The poems we read, the boys love those. My dog's coming down. Hi, Baba. So we have been doing the poem. And then the read alouds are hit or miss as well. So if we weren't doing Sonlight, which is a literature-based curriculum, my dog, we would definitely probably do the read alouds. Now, we did read. We did the first Little House on the Prairie book, and my son actually loved it. We would read it before bed, and it was, a chapter book, but it did have a few pictures in it, and he enjoyed it. There was a few things I skipped over just because those were conversations I wasn't ready to have, about like killing the animals and, there was just a few things. So, but we enjoyed that. And so I do plan on getting another read aloud. It's just right now, I think between what we are reading for Bible as well as just Sonlight in general is kind of heavy with the reading. So if you're not doing Sonlight, then you don't have a lot of other read alouds, then I would definitely choose one of them. And she has an option 1 and option 2. One is more geared to older kids and one's more geared to younger kids. And so this again is just something that I love about certain curriculums is that you can use this over again and it'll grow with you. So anyways, we have enjoyed that. We are going to continue doing that. We have just really relaxed on how stringent her scheduling is. And of course, certain areas like the catechism, and even the Bible storybook and the she's doing theology and we're doing more than words curriculum. I have fit in what needs to be fit. And like I said, I plan on doing it again, whether it's in his kindergarten year next fall. We'll just pick up and, we'll be doing maybe the Bible she's recommending. Maybe we'll do theology as well. Maybe it'll be time for us to circle back to that. And, then maybe I'll really focus on doing the art study and focusing a little bit more on the composer. But for now, they're just enjoying listening to the music, and it is music that honestly I don't normally play. So it's been good. Okay, so like I said, we are doing the More Than Words curriculum for our Bible curriculum, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I am so glad I bought it. I bought the one that you print out. Now, it is geared to, if I remember correctly, like first graders. So it is obviously above for him. But what's great is you can actually very easily change it to fit your child. And that's what I did. And so I will say we definitely dialed back where I was doing like, I think it's like a 4-day curriculum. And so we were doing something on every day and it was just too much. So number one, she has like a little area you can read. And so like a journal entry. And so my kids enjoy that. They'll listen to that. And then there's kind of like the theology area. So we'll kind of read through that and it'll create discussion, and sometimes it doesn't. But again, it's just planting those seeds. And she describes them and writes it in a way that I think is very good for even my son at his age. And like I said, I have a very strong theology background, so I can, explain it a little bit different. If it still is a little bit too high for him, I can explain it in a different way. But I think regardless, even if you don't have a strong theology or Bible, understanding, it's wonderful curriculum, and I think you can teach it as it is, and either way you're planting those seeds. Now, a lot of the areas where there's questions and he's supposed to write, obviously we're not there. And it just kind of depends. Sometimes I've been reading the questions and sometimes I haven't. I find that the questions we have with our storybook works a lot better. Some of the questions about whatever we're learning for the Bible study or like the theology curriculum, it can be a little bit above his head. And so sometimes I ask him and then I'll just answer him for him. And then sometimes we just skip it. I find just reading through and talking about the curriculum portion and planting those seeds is what's really important right now. And then, this is something we will do again and we can build on where I can be asking the questions and he can give me the answers, and then eventually where he can start writing them. And then I think the other day is like sometimes there's an art study, a hymn study, and a poem study. And I'll just be honest, some weeks we do it and sometimes we don't. Combining it with morning time, which also has a poem, and then also all of the reading with Sonlight. We have now started to include a child's book of art. It's a lot. And again, you're not supposed to piece this all together like Courtney does, but I have to pick and choose, and I pick what works. And right now my kids are really enjoying a child's book of art. I don't know why, but they're enjoying that a lot better. And so, like I said, it just depends. Now, with the more than words, like I said, originally we were doing 4 days because I'm pretty sure it's a 4-day curriculum. And some days we'll do it. Some weeks we don't do it at all. I know. Wow. And then some weeks we do it for 4 days. It just depends, honestly. It just depends how into it my kids are. And again, I'm saying that because we're doing 2 Bible readings. We're also doing extra Bible books. So if you watched this video, my extra curriculum that I added, I have a lot of other books with biblical components that we're also reading. And then we're doing morning time. So it can be a lot. And I think when it becomes too much, you have to pick and choose what works. And just know that, he's 4.5 years old. And we'll have so much more time. So let's see what else. What did we stop doing? Okay, let's talk about that. So I stopped doing the developing the early learner. So this was with the Sonlight package, and I believe it was an optional add-on, and we just stopped doing it. I added it because honestly, I had no idea what it was going to be like, and it's nothing against it. When I opened it, it was not what I expected, but I was like, wow, there's actually, like this page, draw a red circle around the items that would go first. So what I find in here is it has a lot of concepts and a lot of things that sometimes you don't think about doing with your child. This one is look at the first pattern and do exactly the same 2 more times. Like, I don't know, it was just like some of these things. Let's see, find and color 4 pictures that belong in the yard and cross out the wrong pictures. So it kind of just gives kids, I think, I can't really think of what the word is, but just practice on other topics that maybe you don't read a book about, or sometimes you just don't read about. Like, I'm trying to think, like, yeah, your kids like just naturally learn like a sock goes before a shoe, but like, do you really convey that to them, or do they just kind of learn that repetitively? I mean, this is like thinking out loud with Courtney right now. So anyways, I love this, okay? But right now, I think because we had so much up and down with the math and trying to just figure out our rhythm, like, with all the appointments and play dates, it was just a lot, honestly. And a lot of other just personal things happening in my life. And this was just one of those things that went. Now, with that said, nothing against this. I highly recommend buying at least one of these if you choose to buy the Sonlight curriculum. You don't necessarily need to buy all 4. With that said, I plan on going back to this, okay? So now that we have our rhythm pretty good, I have a plan for math, language arts is going good. This is something that I may add in on Tuesdays or potentially even Thursdays if we get into a rhythm where we're able to come home. This is just something that I could definitely see us adding in. And if we don't, this would be a lot of fun to do like in the summer. again, the topics it covers, I think, are just things we just don't even really think about to go over and talk about with our kid and have our kid practice. So I do recommend it, and I do plan on bringing it back, so in, 7+ weeks, we'll see if I brought it back or not. So the other thing we stopped doing was the first 1,000 words in Spanish. So this was a wonderful book. We actually have the first 1,000 words in English. We're using it with my younger son, who also is in speech therapy, and it has worked really well with just being able to, it has a picture, and then it will have items around the side that you can find in the picture, but then you can see, like, it will say what that, what that item is. So obviously, like in the English book, it says a ruler, right? These are going to say, what they are in Spanish, and I'll save you my Spanish, but my son loves books, my oldest, and he enjoyed looking at the book, but when it came to me trying to explain the Spanish to him, like, he understands that people speak other languages loosely, right? It's still, I think, a very abstract concept to him that some people just speak a different language than we do. And for him to try to learn another word like ruler, to first learn, hey, that's ruler in English, but then also learn the Spanish thing, the Spanish word, I think it just was very confusing to him. And I know that's so contradictory to, like, people are saying, like, oh, they're sponges right now, like, you just need to stick with it. But it became just almost like I was just reading the words to myself. And what my plan is I'm going to see how Sonlight is going to continue on with an extra language in their next curriculum, because I do plan on sticking with Sonlight. And this is just something that I think we'll try again, but right now it's just not working for us. And I think that's okay. It was something added that right now I just don't really see the point, Also, my son is currently in speech therapy, and so he's doing fine. He's technically graduated, but we're just keep going, and he enjoys it. And so I don't know if it's something like, hey, I'm struggling learning a second language and that concept, because he's also really focused on just broadening his vocab. So I don't know. Okay, we also are really enjoying Eric Carle's Animals. So a lot of them are just like super silly, like poems, I guess you could call them, or haikus or whatever. Like a lot of times I finish reading, the kids are just laughing. So we have quite enjoyed this. This is kind of a component in the read alouds and also kind of for the science. You're typically reading about an animal that also goes with the letter. So we've been enjoying that. My kids actually don't really enjoy Eric Carle, and so for them to enjoy this has been great. So one of the main read alouds we read was the Lion Storyteller bedtime book, let's say, right? We loved it. A lot of the stories we read, and I was just like, wow, okay. Like, they're very clever. You can kind of see where certain concepts have come from, and a lot of these are from different countries. We enjoyed this. There was a lot that I would read, and my husband would be listening and be like, oh, wow. Like full circle, right, with certain things. We right now are reading Stories from Around the World. I don't know if I brought it down. I did. Okay, so it's this little tiny book, and it's kind of the same thing. It doesn't have as many pictures as the Lion Storyteller. As you can see, this is where we left off on. And, they're kind of similar to that, and I can't think of what the word is, but it's like, it's a story. A lot of them are from different countries. I mean, stories from around the world. And you read it and you're like, oh, that's how they got that. Like one of them in here was like how the turtle got its shell, and you're just like, oh, right. Like, again, a lot of them are just like, is it a fable? Is that what it's called? Where you're like, oh, that's why a turtle has a shell. Again, they're just like, they're not true, but a lot of them are just really neat. And these would be fun, I think, even to read with older kids who, like me and my husband, would be able to go like full circle, like, oh, that's kind of creative, right? So regardless, they have a lot of good vocab in them, which I think, I'm obviously having 2 kids in speech therapy, is always a win-win for me, is if I'm able to introduce any other vocab that they don't always have. Okay, the other book we're really enjoying, and actually tomorrow's our last day, we finished the last one, and it's Things People Do. And so it is quite text heavy. So like this one was on the doctor. So my son really enjoyed this. But it takes like the author is so creative with the characters' names. Let's see. So like the teacher, like the name is Less Chatter, like Less Chatter. So the dancer, Honor Toes, like they're just fun. And so it's focusing on me, isn't it? So we have thoroughly enjoyed this. And what was also really exciting was like when it's talking about the doctor or what is it, you know, the hotel manager, they're also talking about other people that help in that profession. And so you're able to explain other jobs. And I think, you know, it's not always going to be about just the doctor and the nurse. There's also like the surgery techs and things like that. And so this book is really good about going into other people that are in the profession. Like when we read the dance one, you know, it had like the costume designer. That's probably not the right one. It had the choreographer. It obviously had like the, you know, and so it was like, even for me, someone who doesn't know a ton about, you know, the vet or the ballet, like even for me, I learned a little bit about like how their day goes. And so this was so wonderful. I highly recommend that book. My children loved that. They loved looking at the pictures, but they also loved listening, and they definitely learned a lot about that. So those are books we're really loving. If you watch my extra curriculum video, we just generally, all of the extra books we have thrown in, we have enjoyed. There's not one that stands out to me that I'm like, oh, we didn't enjoy that. Any of the Sonlight books we have read, which again, largely has been The Lion Storyteller has been our big one. The Things People Do, that has been our other big Sonlight read. The Eric Carl's. We're also reading the Berenstain Big Book of Science. I'll put it right here. That one we're working our way through. We have already read it through once because my son loves Berenstain Bears, and it's just a phenomenal book regardless. And so highly recommend that one. That is our science book right now, and we love it. We're working our way through that one as well. Let me think what else. Like I said, we've added in the Child's Book of Art now. We're enjoying that one. It's a really big book as well. And like I said, for Bible, we add in other books that I have, one's on character, one's on like virtues, manners, one's on, we had like Jack's Tale, that one was talking about anger. We also had the, gosh, what was it called? Gus, where he's, you know, he wants things and, you know, you can't have everything you want. And also kind of in the stealing aspect, it went into that. We talked about, there was a book on lying we really enjoyed. There was a book on whining. And so these are areas where at this age are so beneficial to work on, especially when you're not in the moment dealing with them. And so to work through it and learn through it and talk about it through literature, especially with my son, has been wonderful. So again, these are phenomenal. We also have been doing a lot of library books. I've been trying to upload those in some shorts, which again, I have only uploaded, at least at the point of this, 2 or 3 of them. And I just kind of had that, I was like, we're reading so many good books, so many great library books. And I was like, how do I convey that? And so I think the shorts are really good. You can kind of see the books we're getting. And if we have any that we read and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good, I usually highlight it, or on my Google Doc, I'll highlight it, or I will turn it a different color. One means a color is, hey, I want to read this one again with my kids. And then the other one I highlight is for like a gift, right? That I can give to my parents or my sister for his Christmas or birthday, or that I will buy the boys. And so that's also a really good idea. Like if you're like me and you get a lot of books from the library, some it's like, we could read this multiple times a week, then I try to highlight it as, hey, let's get this one again, or highlight it a different way as a gift. So I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, we are loving the Sonlight curriculum. We are loving all about reading, pre-reading. But as far as math goes, I mean, I have a plan, but I'm holding on to it very loosely. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. And I'm excited to do the next update video just to see what worked and what did I end up doing with math. And we are so excited to progress through our Sonlight curriculum. We have so many other books to read, especially when we get through the Berenstain Bear book. There's a lot of science books coming, and these were the two big read aloud books for Sonlight, but we also have a lot of smaller ones, and so those will obviously kind of go through kind of quickly, and so I'm just so excited, and I can't wait to share with you guys how those are going. And I just saw one other book down here. So my son, we were doing like a preschooler's devotion, and my son is super interested in science right now, and so we're loving the Berenstain Bears. It's great, but he definitely, I think, wants more. And so one of the ways that I was adding more was I just changed our devotion to Louis Gigelow's "How Great Is Our God." So I already had this. I bought it when it was on sale one time because I'd heard, I mean, who hasn't heard about this, right? And so every day it kind of talks about something related to science creation, and then it ties it back to God, and it has a Bible verse, it has kind of like a prayer. It's been wonderful. A lot of times the science is definitely way over my 4.5-year-old son's mind, but I love how it brings it back. So it's talking about a science or creation type of topic, and it brings it back to God. And so again, planting those seeds, it's wonderful. This will definitely be a reread for us, and gosh, this would be great for any boy or girl that you have, and especially if they're a lover of science. Like I said, for my 4.5-year-old, it's definitely a bit advanced, but that's not gonna stop me, right? So thanks for listening to me ramble on for a while, and I hope some of this has been beneficial, especially if you're considering the Sonlight Level P for pre-kinder, if you're curious about all about reading, and if you watch my hi, sit down. And if you listen to my pre-kinder curriculum video as well as my pre-kinder extras, and you were just curious, like, how's this girl gonna get this all to work out? Well, now you know. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you later. And say bye. Bye.